Olin and salutations to the Truth Core. Whoever and wherever you may be on this magnificent planet, here I am again on the 6th of October already, and I'm here today to tell you about why there is no metaphysics in my system. That is to say, in planetary Tantra and my formulation and upscaling of the Gnostic intel of the mysteries. So pull up your knickers or your pajamas, and here it comes. Perhaps you have noticed, as I have, certain titles that come up in video clips on YouTube that fall into a certain genre. That is to say, the constant and interminable chatter about theories of physics, largely derived from the beginning of the 20th century. Quantum theory, Einsteinian relativity, including special and general relativity, Bell's theorem, quantum interactions, string theory, hologramic theory, the latest theoretical discoveries coming out of CERN, the God particle, and on and on. Now, these are subjects that you could say belong to a genre which, as far as I can tell, only exist because of a dumb and uneducated public who is easily fascinated by wild speculations and fairy tales coming from the scientific experts, such as theoretical physicists. I've said before that there cannot be anything like a theoretical physicist. It's complete shite from the outset. You are a physicist. You study the physics of nature, the dynamics of nature, both evident in the earth and evident in the cosmos at large, and you're not a theoretical physicist unless you are peddling abstract speculations and unprovable theories. And unfortunately, this is largely the case. And equally unfortunately, so many people are duped and fascinated by these theories, such as quantum theory, originating with Max Planck, and string theory, and whatever the hell else comes through on the internet feed, which, in my humble opinion, is the equivalent of having sewage pumped into your brain. Here's an example. The clips come up in suggestions on the right-hand column, and they have titles like this: Quantum Physics Proves Dog Wag Tail Happy. And 400,000 people click on it and listen to it. Here's another one. String theory proves spaghetti invented by aliens from Draco. How about this one? CERN scientists reveal that Elon Musk is Jesus in a parallel universe. Of course, you haven't seen those titles, but don't be surprised if you do. And the titles that you will find are as absurd and pointless as those ludicrous examples. There are thousands and thousands of such videos available for completely wasting your time and trashing your brain. And additional to that, there are carnival barkers. You know what a barker is? It's the name for someone at a carnival who stands in front of a sideshow and provokes you and invites you to go in and see, the bearded hippopotamus lady and the Siamese twins. Carnival barkers, they're carpetbaggers. So there are carpetbaggers who go along for the ride, like Greg Braden and Jay Widener, whom I once knew. People who are simply exploiting the ignorance of the public and hyping these stupid, pointless theories and speculations about the physical dynamics of the universe. How would anyone know about the physical dynamics of the universe? Well, how about this? When you know in your body-mind, and when you experience provably in your senses, and when you examine and confirm your experience by the probative faculty of your own mind, which is the faculty that looks for proof based on evidence, then you can say you are dynamically engaged with the physics of the universe, and then you might be able to say something about it. But I assure you that theoretical physicists and the experts at CERN and the many other examples I can give are human creatures who are dissociated from their own immediate, present physical reality. They are dissociated nerds who are completely unqualified to talk about the dynamics of the earth and the cosmos, simply because they don't experience those dynamics directly. One of the benefits of the living gnosis today, which could be called Gaian physics or Gaian tantric physics, that's what I call it, is that it puts you on a path of direct and provable interactivity with the dynamics, first of the earth, of the biosphere, and then of the cosmos at large. You have to go through the immediate environment of nature to approach what is beyond nature. Well, nothing is beyond nature, really, in my opinion. But of course, there is the cosmos at large. There's the zodiac. There are the cycles and patterns of the planets. These are matters to which I've dedicated decades of my life. And I can assure you that if your knowledge of the dynamics of nature and the cosmos is not interactive and intimate to you, provable to you on first-person terms, then you're not there. You're not with it. You know, there's a line in the Acts of John, which was a non-Nag Hammadi text. In Greek, it belongs to what is called the New Testament Apocrypha, that is to say, the books that were rejected from the New Testament because they were considered to be dangerous and heretical. And there's a line there, there's a song actually, that says, "Whoever does not enter the dance does not know what is happening." So it's a dance, it's a cosmic dance of Shiva. And the only valid form of physics or metaphysics is that which can be proven directly to you through your own experience of your mind and senses and your intentions. Just think about it. You get up in the morning, you go through your day, and you have certain intentions, right? You have certain goals and objectives. But what if I told you that you could live through your day in clear and lucid knowledge that your intentions were actually in harmony with the intentions of the mother planet? Would you like to know how to do that? Well, that's what planetary Tantra teaches. And what I'm going to explain now is the metaphysical principles of planetary Tantra. I said there is no metaphysics, but there are 3 principles. So am I contradicting myself? No, not really. You see, these 3 principles can be stated in brief, clear, and memorable terms. And once you hear them, you can never forget them. These 3 principles are eliminative rules. You can call them preclusive. When you take into your mental syntax these 3 principles, they act preclusively. They eliminate everything else that is not true and essential in your approach to thinking about how the cosmos works. It's as if you had some enormous files in your computer. Suppose you had been researching, say, the history of Japan, going back, say, to the medieval period, the epoch of the samurai, say in the 12th century, and then coming forward into modern Japanese history, World War II, and so forth. And suppose you had compiled a dossier of many, many files on that subject. But suppose that within the files that you had accumulated by your research, there were errors, there were mistakes, not only mistakes regarding the facts of Japanese history, but also, and more so, mistakes regarding how to interpret the facts. So you have all this material in a thick set of files in your computer, and it's valuable to you. You want to know about the subject. You want to master the subject for the purpose of really knowing the truth about Japanese history and the Japanese people and their mythogen, if you will, their racial and cultural outlook. And then suppose that I say here's a program. It's like an antivirus, an anti-malware program. So it consists of code, of algorithms. So I give it to you on a thumb drive, plug it into your computer, and then you bring up those massive files on Japan and the Japanese people, and you run this algorithm on those files, and it clears out everything that is erroneous, distorted, false evidence. Everything that distorts the study you have made, so that it leaves you with crystal clear intel. It eliminates and precludes everything that would get in the way of the optimal comprehension of the subject that you undertake, be it Japanese history and culture or whatever. So, these 3 principles are like that. Once you hear them, reflect on them, and learn them, it totally eliminates the need to think otherwise about how the cosmos might work and how you might be involved in how it works. And it opens the road and opens the way to a brilliant and immediate experience of how the consciousness of the cosmos is present in you, and not only how you can know that, but how you can act on it. You can act on knowing that. So, 1, 2, 3. Here it comes. First principle of Gaian or Tantric metaphysics is matter and consciousness are coeval and co-eternal. So coeval, C-O-E-V-A-L, has nothing to do with evil. It means that they arise together. Matter and consciousness arise together. Not consciousness first and then matter. Not matter first and then consciousness. They arise together simultaneously and they are co-eternal. Co-eternal means that they have never not been present. The material form of the universe and the consciousness that instills and pervades the universe has never not been here. It had no beginning. It never began. And it has no end. They are co-eternal. The word from Tibetan Buddhism, which I happen to like a lot, that presents a paraphrase of this principle is co-emergent. So matter and consciousness are co-emergent. There is not one without the other. There is no material form in the universe without consciousness present, nor is there any consciousness without material base. You see? This is the first principle. Now you notice that I don't use the word spirit. I don't say that spirit and matter are coeval and co-eternal. I don't use the word spirit. Spirit is completely useless. Spirit or spiritual are completely rotten memes in my mind. They're useless. They fail to say anything anymore. But generally speaking, due to the inheritance that comes out of the Western intellectual tradition, if you go back to the Greek word pneuma, if you go back to the Latin word spiritus, well, there is a connotation to those terms, which is that something exists that is not embodied, non-corporeal. So one of the goals of yoga, for instance, it's often stated this way, would be, you practice yoga, you want to achieve a state of samadhi, or cosmic consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And so what is the goal? Well, the goal is to achieve a pure consciousness, pure disembodied spiritual awareness. Well, I'm sorry to be the bad dude that tells you this, and actually I'm not in the least bit sorry. There is no such thing as pure, disembodied, immaterial consciousness. I don't use the word spirit because spirit doesn't exist in my cosmos. I'm happy to be the one who stands before you and completely trashes the concept of spirituality and spirit. Second principle, short and sweet. There is no gradient of awareness. Now that's a beauty. I've expressed it before. I've brought up the question, which people have put to me. They say, well, hey, John, you talk about the aeons, which is the Gnostic word for gods and goddesses, and you locate them actually materially and astronomically in the core of our galaxy. So the gods and goddesses who are responsible for all the experiments that happen in the planetary systems of this local galaxy inhabit the core. And, well, John, you've also compared it to a kind of observation booth. So what are you saying, man? oh, the aeons look out from the core, not the Aeon Sophia, because she plunged from the core and she is present in the earth. But the other aeons in the core, like her consort Thelete, they're observing this experiment, but how actually do they observe it? How do they, from the galactic center, which is said to be, 25,000 light years from the Earth, how do they see what's going on here? And how do you compare their awareness, their level of consciousness, if you will, with ours as we proceed as creatures here on Earth living out our lives? So I've been asked that question. I've asked myself that question. And here's the answer. The aeonic deities in the pleroma, which are non-human and superhuman, observe you making toast in the morning with the same awareness you use to make toast in the morning. There is no gradient of awareness. So just as you have the presence of mind to take out the bread, take out the slices of bread you want, perhaps you have several choices and you decide that you want, let's say, sesame toast. So you select the sesame from the bread box, and then you turn to the refrigerator, you take out the butter, maybe you take out raspberry jam, you set these things on the table, you place the slice of toast in the toaster, you get the butter knife to spread the butter and jam on it when it's ready. And the awareness that you employ to do all that is exactly the same as the awareness the aeons use to observe you doing it. There is no gradient of awareness. There are levels of intelligence. There are, let's say, I'll use the term from ethology, an Umwelt. An Umwelt is like a band. There are bands of awareness. Certainly your band of awareness operating day to day is not the same as the band of awareness of an aeon, nor is it the same as the band of awareness of an elephant or a cockroach. You see? But within all these bands, at the basis of all these bands, is the primordial observation awareness, and there is no gradient of observation. There are filters, but there is no gradient because it is the same awareness that radiates through all the filters. So you can be assured that when you do the simplest thing, when you choose your socks from the drawer and put them on in the morning, and you observe yourself doing that, the Aeon Sophia and the aeons in the pleroma do the same. And there is no gradient of awareness. The primary awareness you have is exactly the same as what they have. Finally, we come to the third principle, which is implied in the first. I've said this often, and I never tire of saying this. I can guarantee you it amuses me greatly. And I venture to say that when I say it, I speak with total confidence. Everything is material. Everything. Every emotion, every perception, every thought, everything is material. And this is a statement that comes from the astonishment of being aware of how anything can even be here in the first place. One of the questions that people ask in religion and metaphysics is, well, who created this? How did this come to be? I'm sitting in a room in a house. Well, I know the house was built by human hands, but it's on a landscape. It's in a territory. It's on the earth. How did this setting of the earth come to be? The setting of the earth is material. Everything is material. All the actions and activities and thoughts and emotions of the Mother Goddess are material. Her emotions are material. The weather is her emotions. The weather does not symbolize her emotions. It does not represent her emotions. The weather is her emotions. According to this principle of everything is material, which, as I say, eliminates and precludes a lot of speculation that goes into the abstract. Fuck the abstract. Do not meddle with the abstract. There is nothing there for you, I assure you. Could be said that the principle, everything is material, is really the gateway that opens when you enter the path of the living gnosis today. And there's a wonderful expression for that used by Shaktas, who are devotees of the planetary animal mother and who want to know her and love her and understand her ways and be part of her designs and purposes. The saying is a question. What's it to her? And you can put that question to any phenomenon of nature. For instance, you can say, the ocean, the salty ocean. What's it to her? Well, the ocean is her emotional memory of everything that she experienced as an aeon before she turned into the earth. It's not the symbol of her emotional memory. It's not a trope. It's not a façon de parler. I'm not just using a linguistic or semantic trick. The salt water of the oceans of the earth is materially her memory. And in that memory of what she was as an aeon in the galactic core, there are memories of the many myriad, countless creatures that the aeons designed in the aeonic core, the infinite species that they designed, including our own species, the anthropos, and all animal species. And so, therefore, it's obvious, isn't it, that all life comes out of the ocean because it comes out of her emotional memory of things that she experienced as a cosmic artist and designer in the galactic core. What is iodine? It gets very particular, my friends. You can go all the way to the end of the kalpa with this. Hey, what's iodine to her? Now, iodine, have you ever smelled iodine? When I was living in Friendship, Maine, I used to spend a good part of my time walking around the ledges and the coves and the estuaries of Friendship, which were endlessly pure and beautiful. And there was a lot of seaweed on those rocks. And sometimes I would step on the seaweed and it would pop. And the smell of iodine would come out. So what is iodine? Iodine is her breath. It actually is her breath. Now, if I came to you and I leaned up close to you and I opened my mouth and I breathed on you, you would feel my breath on your skin, wouldn't you? It's material, it's concrete, it's palpable, it's sensorial. Likewise, iodine is the breath of the aeons of fire. Well, what about fresh water? Fresh water is not the memory of what she experienced in the pleroma before she turned into the earth. It is the memory of everything that she has experienced since she became the earth. So rivers of fresh water, torrents and waterfalls are her memory. They are the material expressions of her memory. And when you see a sweet little spring, when you see a sweet lake or a large lake, like Lake Bala in northern Wales, that's the specific repository of her memory. Because there are many units within her memory. There are many cells of memory. And so a beautiful spring hidden in the woods contains particular information in her memory. But it's only the memory of what she has experienced since she turned into the earth, not the memory of any pre-terrestrial experiences she had. And that's true of all the fresh water, the sweet water, the aquifers, the wells, the waterfalls. When you stand before nature and you know this, when you hold this metaphysical principle, if you want to call it that, in the forefront of your mind, it wipes out everything else. You don't speculate. There is no need to speculate. It's a waste of time to engage in speculations and abstractions about how the cosmos works. So how far would you like me to take it? How far do you think I can go with it? What is ice to her? What are the glaciers and icebergs to her? They are that part of her memory that is available immediately for access to the tasks that she needs to undertake. In other words, they are current RAM, random access memory, to use an archontic or IT analogy. By the way, you can use archontic and IT analogies to describe human intelligence and even Sophianic intelligence, because the archons only have the intelligence that they do have due to her giving it to them. The cosmological texts of Nag Hammadi make it very clear that the archons were able to create the solar system exclusive of the sun, moon, and earth due to Sophia having given them a spark of her divine intelligence, which they imitate in a blind and mechanical fashion, just as IT today is nothing more than a blind mechanical imitation of the human intelligence that created it, and it can never exceed the human intelligence that created it, nor can it even compete with it. That is a lie of the technocrats. Don't buy that lie. So yeah, just consider it. When you look at icebergs, what do you see? You see them calving, like calves. Cows have calves. Icebergs are like cows that have calves. Have you ever wondered about the curious nature of that trope? Why would you say that icebergs calve? Well, I refer you to a beautiful passage in the Finnish national epic, the Kalevala. And it is a myth, a shamanic myth, that comes out of the northernmost regions of the world, where people lived constantly in the presence of glaciers and icebergs. So they saw the glaciers melting. They saw the icebergs calving, and they were directly interactive with the power of nature and they gave a name to those phenomena, and that was Adumla, which is a name of a goddess in the Kalevala, and the name means the white cow. The depiction of the mother goddess of the earth as a cow is frequent. You find it also in Hindu Vedic mythology, which is why the cow is sacred in that culture. So you find in the Eddas and the Finlandic and Icelandic mythologies this description of something that is an actual fact of nature. So the white cow goddess of the glaciers gives birth to the primordial human prototype called Ymir. Ymir is not the earth, it is the anthropos in Gnostic terms. So those people knew that the genomic seed from which their races proceeded, the white Scandinavian races, was born from the white cow goddess. And they knew that they had emerged, that Ymir emerged from that vast milky whiteness. And of course the white goddess is the name of Sophia, isn't it? Leucothea being the Roman counterpart, or Latin or Greek word for the white goddess. How good does it get? I can assure you it gets better. I can say what I just said on the basis of my lifelong studies as a comparative mythologist. But I can add to that what comes out of the living gnosis today, the current intel. Glaciers and icebergs are the RAM of the Aeon Sophia, the random access memory that she uses moment to moment to micromanage the entire biosphere. You see, on any particular day, she doesn't use the entirety of her memory to dream that day, just as you don't. In any day, you use a certain selective part of your memory to run your affairs of that day, don't you? In IT jargon, that is your RAM, correct? And well, what's it to her? What's an iceberg to her? It's part of her RAM. Do you want to hear more? How about crystals? Precious crystals like tourmaline, opal, diorite, precious super hard stone. What is diorite to her? What is quartz to her? Everything is material. So the Aeon Sophia is not human. She is a living animal. You live in her body. You are the constant, immediate product of her dreaming. You have no life of your own. Your life is an event in her dreaming, and her dreaming is material. So what is quartz? Well, when you look at human biology and the current paradigm of evolution, what do you learn about the human genome? Now, I don't buy a lot of the current paradigms of anything, including, say, the paradigm of a Frappuccino latte. But you know, there's an ongoing joke about ordering a latte with breast milk, and I'm talking about breast milk here. No kidding, I am. But when you look at the current paradigm of genealogy, what does it say? Well, it says there's a human genome. That is the generic DNA coded design of our species. But then when you look at an individual case, you see the chromosomal genes. So you receive your genealogical inheritance, which gives you physical characteristics such as hair color, eye, body morphology, from a tiny selection of 5% of the entire genomic code. And that 5% is in your chromosomal genes. But there are also extra chromosomal genes. But let's just concentrate on chromosomal genes for a minute, saying it's a metaphor for something. What we can get out of it, what can we make out of it that's valuable and instructive? Well, what's quartz to her and other precious stones, crystals? They are her chromosomal genes. They are chromostones of the divine aeonic mother, chromostones of her body, and everything is material. Enough said? And I'll be seeing you in the beauty to come.